Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The program for today is such that the lecture is scheduled to be of a 1.5 hour duration. There will be a short break of 5 minutes, 40 minutes after the commencement of the lecture. May I now have the honor of introducing our guest lecturer, Professor M.G. Kularathne, Professor of Economics in the Faculty of Social Sciences at the University of Kelaniya. Our esteemed guest received his bachelor degree in economics with honors from University of Peradeniya, masters in science in socio-economic information for natural resources management, and his PhD in environmental economics from the Queensland University of Technology, Australia, and has continued to lecture from 1995 up to date at the University of Kelaniya as a lecturer, senior lecturer, and currently as a professor from 2018. He is a research supervisor of the Norlanka Blue Project, the economist of the multidisciplinary research project on developing master plans for pre-identified lagoons clusters by the Ministry of Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Development, social development expert on behalf of the UN Habitat on a resettlement action plan for rehabilitation of a section of the main line in the Sri Lanka Railways, and is a social impact assessment consultant for the Western Region Light Rail Transit Project under the Ministry of Megapolis and Western Development, and the project on the Resettlement Action Plan for Heather Oil and Kumbukang Oil Reservoir by the Department of Irrigation. His current research work is mainly focused on efficiency and productivity analysis of water resources in agriculture and fisheries, and use of solid waste in increasing primary production in Sri Lanka. Sir, we are deeply honored to have you present here with us, and we warmly welcome you to conduct this lecture on the impact of globalization on less developed countries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a comprehensive introduction of me and very good evening for everybody. Unfortunately, we can't see each other, but still it is interested because this is the part of globalized diseases, right? And now we have to discuss the same theme. But we'll see at the end how COVID is going to be with us in this lecture. And thank you very much for inviting me to join with you on the short courses on cultural linkage towards on Asian ideology and organized by your university. And I'm sure that in this evening is everybody is happy and to be with me for next 1.5 hour or maybe 2 hours time. It's up to you actually. And the topic is given, the impact of globalization on less developed countries, and we are special make our attention to Asia. And in top of that, we also going to get some kind of example from Sri Lanka because we all are very much familiar with, okay? And the globalization is like the word comes in 1930s. In the first, it was talked by Russell, and Russell was explaining based on education. But in 1960s, we like social scientists very much use this term. So now onwards, we'll move into next one and see that how this lecture is organized. And you know, the simply what is globalization is because I'm not going to define too much of, I'm not going to take in too much of time to define, but it's very simply, the globalization is like free flow of capital, goods, labor, and services as well as technology across the international boundaries. That's a very simple, it seems very simple definition. But there are some other definition which is talking a little bit more about the globalization. It's kind of a free movement of goods, service, and people across the world in a seamless and integrated manner. But have a look at this definition. It is seen that the goods, services, people, and capital, once you get these few words, you can see that the capital and the goods are coming from somewhere else. And we are providing services and people, the labor, okay? And I will take this point later on to discuss a little bit more with my kind of an argument. And the next definition is going with the globalization is based on the theory of comparative advantage. You know that we are very much learning in economics what is comparative advantage is. That is basically the countries that are good at producing a particular goods are better off exporting to the countries that are less efficient at producing that good. I might ask some several questions yourself and myself to understand what these concepts are, because most of the concepts what we are talking about are Eurocentric, right? And the comparative advantage, that means are we producing tea, is that because of our comparative advantage or not? Maybe sometimes it's a historical matter, actually. The British introduced us to plant tea plantation. Now we are pioneer in that sector. But what is comparative advantage in that sense? We'll see what will happen in the next, okay? And the worldwide impacts, when we are talking about the impacts or effect of globalization, it can be either positive or it can be either negative. And there are plenty of impacts, either negative or positive. We can find many of them. I mention here a few of them. And the global market and Western culture and our local culture, technology, foreign trade, legal effects, unemployment, competition. I'm not going to read all of it, but have a look at that. It's a huge amount of points we can discuss under the globalization impacts or effects. And if you have a look all these things, I'm not sure whether all these things are positive for some countries and negative for another. It's vice versa, because in this lecture, I'm not going to talk about whether globalization or good or bad. But I might explain in that what is globalization and its impact to, especially in Asia or our community. And you know that in Asia, if you get the Asian countries, the community are a little bit homogeneous, you know, and their attitudes, the culture, and the food consumption pattern, and most of them are much similar. And the globalization is a kind of a thing is coming from the pole, okay, in the north of the globe. And whatever the principle is, then we have to see that whether it is directly compatible with our society and our culture, our system, and our heritage, and etc., etc. So if there is some mismatch, then we might say that it is a negative impact for us, okay? And sometimes it can be positive. It's up to you to decide which one is we are going to take it. And there's some impacts with globalization to Asia especially, okay? Globalization has hugely benefited to Asia. That is what is Xi Jinping, and the Chinese president is telling us in 2017. And he's happy with the globalization anyway. And according to him, there are a lot of benefits we have. So one thing is investment flow. We are getting capital. You know that the Sri Lanka got capital to start tea plantation from British. And also we got some labor from India. So we produce, we sell them to their countries. And with what will happen if the labor movements is the part of the globalization? We know that King Gajaba was bring 12,000 people to the country. Is that the part of the globalization? Is that the first wave of globalization in Sri Lanka? It can be sometime, you know that. Even though it's verbally, we got this concept in 1930s in Europe, but again, we started to use it 1960s as economists. But it's still the history, the historical development, historical integration of the nations. We can see that the kind of a labor and capital movement. We know the story of Silk Road in China, okay? And now we are categorically discussing the globalization in recent past. However, there are plenty of positive and negative impact to Asia, okay? So knowledge exchange, rapid economic growth, rich even richer, the poor also benefited somehow. We will see those things whether they are happening or not, Okay, rural poor received high wage. You know that the manufacturing sector. And many people who are living in the village at the remote areas, they moved to Colombo and Biagam and Katunayaka, for the manufacturing industries. It doesn't matter what it has happened to local agriculture and the rice farming and chelna cultivation. Sometimes somebody can argue that they are less efficient because they are not money oriented, and there are plenty of things. But anyhow, people are moving to the urban centers. If you see the Dhaka, you can see the Dhaka city. And the urbanization is huge, not even Bangladesh, in many other Asian countries like that. Okay, improvement in technology. We are using technology, even the technology what we are using right now, we are got thanks to globalization, perhaps. Okay, and the trading. Now we are in a problem with getting vaccination, and we are getting the testing the boxes from the other countries. We are waiting to WHO are sending all these things, that the trading and the technology and our job prospects. If I ask a question from the audience, how many people are willing to stay in Sri Lanka once you finish your degree? How many people are willing to go somewhere else to do something? But bad luck is now it is not easy to move from one side to another because there is a restriction given by the nature, right? And again, the reduction of racial tension is especially in Malaysian case, because thanks to globalization, now the Malaysia is saying that their racial tension is a little bit lower than the ever. You know that we also had some kind of a discussion while we had that terrorism in Sri Lanka. We discussed somewhere in Thimphu, okay? And we discussed supporting with Norway. And what does this mean? It is part of the globalization and the very fast communication. Now no one is writing letters, right? Have you write a letter to your parents or your girlfriend or boyfriend for many years? No. Now we're just typing in the computer as email, or more, maybe perhaps very much you are using your mobile phone. Okay, and the knowledge transfer is very fast because when I'm getting ready for this lecture, I got almost all this information from the website. The knowledge is transferring. But again, my question is that who is generating this knowledge? I'm discussing this point later on as a different fact. Okay. And also be free with when you are working with me, when you are listening to my lectures, if anybody have any question, it doesn't matter, just stop me and ask, okay? And now, and the Chinese is a big economy in Asia. In 2017, as I previously mentioned, and the Chinese President Xi Jinping was talking in Global Economic Forum, Davos, in January 2017. But he's saying that that is globalization is the big ocean that you cannot escape from. And I like to highlight this blue ocean. Ocean is the beautiful big waves, can sail the very big ship and the blue water and very deep, but also it makes some tsunami as well. Okay. And it can be a good things to China, perhaps, yes. Some people are happy with the globalization, and the president in China is saying that, yes, it is very good for them, okay? And again, the globalization, he continued that it's the globalization as the assimilation of national economies into one huge international economy via foreign direct investment. Wait, sorry for that. And then he said that, yeah, if anybody wants to talk to me? Okay. And he said that it's a big ocean that you cannot escape. That means we are in a trap of globalization, the way Chinese president is saying. Yeah, now he's saying that we came to the conclusion that integration, relation into the global economy is a historical trend. I like to get these few words repeating: integration or relation into the global economy is a historical trend. You know that the development discourse, we are talking about the historical trend in each countries. And sometime earlier in Sri Lanka, we produce rice based on our irrigations. Our ancestors built a lot of reservoirs in this country to get water to cultivate rice. Why? Sri Lanka has a rice culture, even in Bangladesh, even China, even Pakistan. Sometimes we are getting basmati from Pakistan. Why? Because we eat rice eaters, you know. And Professor Sirivir is mentioning that Sri Lanka has a rice culture. And also he's saying that we also have water culture. Now, in that period, the kings were thinking that our development, our investment should go with our perspectives. That is what we are achieving, our sustainability, and that is why we develop such. So anyway, the integration and the relation into the global economy is historical trend. Yes, each and every country has their own historical path come up with. But now what has happened through the globalization, now someone is explaining this is globalization, you are very free to moving here and there, you can go anywhere you want to. And the trading is very free because there is no tariff at all, then you can send. But the point is that who is going to benefit and who is going to lost? And this has to be discussed when we are talking with the impact of globalization. As I told you that I'm not going to say anything about whether globalization or good or bad. That is depending on the situation. But anyhow, the Chinese president is happy with because it is saying that he is want to be in such big ocean and assuming that we cannot escape because it's a kind of a very strong waves is globalization, okay? And again, now my point is that the globalization was capitalism. Now, this is different kind of ideological discussion because now we know what is globalization and also we know capitalism. Capitalism is very much we are discussing in economics jargon. Capitalism, economic is explaining like economic distribution and production are owned by private entities, accumulate profit, private ownership as opposed to government ownership. Okay, and therefore capitalism is encouraged by globalization. Now the issue is that this is the big argument we have to talk about, we have to think about. And capitalism is promoting the private entities, they're accumulating profit, sorry, and the private ownership and the government involvement is minimal. That is what capitalism means. In the other hand, the globalization as a free trade, removal of tariff, as I told you, the free flow of capital, goods, labor, and services, okay? And who is asking this free trading? Is the governments or the private entities? Who is accumulating profit? Is in any particular governments or the private entities or private ownership? Is that globalization is organized by the government or who are the key stakeholders of the globalization? And that is why I'm in a problem with keep balancing globalization and the capitalism. And the next point, globalization as the assimilation of the national economy. That is what economics define into the one huge international economy via foreign direct investment, migration, trade, capital flow, and trade. Okay, and this is kind of a definition what economics think. And what I am seeing that the globalization spawns capitalism, and the capitalism and the globalization seems like the both side of the coins. Maybe someone can argue it's not, and some can argue, yeah, it is. But basically what I think capitalism and globalization is the capitalism, globalization is a continuation of capitalism. What's the basic points? What's the main points of capitalism? Actually, this slide is not in your set of slides because I add this on it later. But anyway, it's a basic idea is the top 1% of people are getting 43% of total wealth. You know that the disparity is huge in the capitalism. And some people earn a lot and some people earn very little. You know, 90% of total population in the bottom, they own 70% of the total wealth, okay? And that this is the situation in America. And now come back to our nation, okay? And the globalization. As a result of globalization, who is earn a lot? We earn, or some other countries earn a lot. Because we are sending our goods and services and our labor and everything for some other countries who are getting more profit, who are profit margin is larger than us, okay? And that is why in this point, I'm giving some ideas to think a little bit more than what we are listening to me. Can we say that to see that the phases of globalization and capitalism is a little bit much similar, or how it is going on? So therefore, I'm saying globalization is supporting to contribution of capitalism. It's a question mark, actually. So I agree with capitalism is encouraged by globalization because several reasons. And this is theoretical explanation. It's come with the Andy Frank in 1966. What he's telling us, and the development of a capitalism itself is a historical process of the economic development. So in that point, we have to agree with what Chinese president said. Now he is saying that the development of a country is a historical process, yes. And the Planck is telling the same thing. And the relation and integration, relation is using by Planck, integration is using by Chinese president. But anyway, there are some similarities, okay? And the relations are an essential part of the structure and the development of the capitalism system on the world scale as a whole. And that is what Planck is saying. You know that the integration is an essential part of the structure and the development of the capitalist system on the world scale as a whole. And the globalization is a world scale as a whole. And that the integration is on a world scale as a whole. And these 2 points are giving kind of a idea to think of what globalization is and capitalism is about. And moving to the next, still I am agree with, because the less developed countries are diffused with capital, institution, and value from the international and national capitalist metropoles. Metropoles is the parents' country of colonies. Okay. Now we know that we are getting more investment from many countries, not in Sri Lanka, but many other countries, because after Second World War, IMF and World Bank is facilitating financially for many less developed countries, not for Asia, but for Latin America, South African countries, and many other poor countries. But again, we are in a problem of repay our loans. And we are using our natural resources, and we are producing the things, and we are selling them, and we repay our loan. So then how long we can do that? That is why we are saying, as Planck says, less developed countries are diffused with getting investment and capital. And again, institutions and values, okay? And there are some countries that directly rejected kind of a values coming from the North. And for example, in Nigeria, and the one of the professor called Nabudere, Danny Nabudere, he's saying that we don't like kind of a values of Eurocentric countries, you know. We want our freedom. But you know that the globalization is invisible thing, but is it forcing us to do that, or are we doing ourselves? okay? And now we have to think, because this lecture is much more leading to think than my explanation. Then you can think a little bit more and more. And again, I agree with this. Globalization is supporting to continuation of capitalism because inequalities of income and differences in culture have led many observe to see dual societies and economies in our countries. You can see that in the society, there are some group of people are rich and some people are much more exposure to outside, but some of them are not. You know that after the plantation, it started in plantation in Sri Lanka, our local economic was a dual economy. We had a plantation sector, and also we also had a agriculture, traditional agriculture sector. That's the economics became a dual. Likewise, sometime because of this integration and the relations, and there are two types of societies. Some of them are exposure to outside, and some of them are survive in the country. And the many countries in Asia, many people are living in the other countries. Those who are capable enough to go. Sorry, but some of them are still stay in their own countries. Maybe some people, sorry, some people don't like to leave the country, but still there are some people, if they have an opportunity, they like to go, but still they can't go. And this dualism is everywhere in the Asia, not in Asia, but even the British people, they wish to go to USA. Why? Then the people by nature, they like to move one place to another, but still again, there are huge inequalities of income and the culture. And the national wise, we can see these things. Then again, I agree with this because only one part of the economics and society is affected by the intimate economic relations, and the other part is variously isolated and subsistence-based, feudal or pre-capitalist. And this is nicely explained by Frank based on core and periphery issue of resource flow. I don't think that we should stick on it, but still the theoretical explanation of Planck based on his research, he's saying that the capitalism or development model of the world, either under capitalism or under globalization, what is happening is a resource flow is always moving from periphery of the world to the core of the world. That means from the developing countries to the developed nation. If I ask the question, some people start their life from far away from Sri Lanka, okay? And many of us know many students in the universities who came from very remote area. They don't want to go back to their villages. They want to stay in Colombo. But those who are staying in Colombo, they also wish to go somewhere else in the outside the country. Why? To get in more facilities, get in more benefits. Even the people who are living inside the country, they want to come to the urban centers because this flow is always outward looking, you know, and people are going to core areas from the peripheral. And this is what is happening. That is what Frank is arguing. Even under globalization or a capitalism, what is happening in the world, we are moving towards the core. And even our culture, even our housing system, our transport, our legal system, and everything in Asia has dramatical impact with this flow of resources and moving towards the core. Okay, that is the huge impact of globalization, and the human are moving towards core countries. Okay, and that is one thing I agree to say that globalization is supporting to continuation of capitalism. Then based on this Planck theory or Planck ideas, there are some critical questions which I am leading this lecture today. Number one is, does Asia organize their activities It can be either economic, political, socio-cultural, and institutional based on the theory of comparative advantage. Are we producing anything depending on the comparative advantage or someone else it has given? Now we are very good in because we are earn a lot from the garment factories. Are we started garment factories based on the theory of comparative advantage? Because the globalization underground theory or the base theory or a driving forces of the globalization is theory of comparative advantage. People are producing what they can produce efficiently, okay, and they are sent into another country who are weak to the produce, and they are getting, both countries are getting more benefited. That is the comparative advantage, as I explained in the beginning. Then again, I can ask the same question: are we producing tea? Is it because of our comparative advantage? Are we producing rubber or coconut in history? Is it based on the comparative advantage? If not, it is not the base on the globalization again. Okay, and the second point is I'm asking that the does globalization support maintaining international and local interdependency and the disparity? Okay, and the question two, I'm not sure that whether it is a bit hard to understand, but the globalization, I think, supporting to maintain international and local interdependency and disparity. I will explain in my next slide what is these points are, a little bit more comprehensively. Is anybody have any questions so far? Because I already explained like 30 minutes or approximately 20 minutes, because no one can ask continuously more than 20 minutes. Because you know that we are economics and we always thinking of marginal value of the time. I can say many things, but if you have any question, but still you can ask, or at the end, we also can ask some question. If you don't have any question, I can move to the next. And keep it your mind that my one question is, are we working with theory of comparative advantage? If yes, then we can say yes, globalization is working and its impacts are there, okay? And the second thing is the global development model is try our best to maintaining interdependency and the disparity. Let me give a very simple example. If you are tired, okay, what does interdependency mean? Now you can find a boyfriend or a girlfriend in the university and go back home and tell your parents, and some parents are agree and some parents are disagree. They might say that, no, you can find your own because we have to find someone. If you find somebody, we are not giving anything, okay? No houses and no properties, nothing. No gold, no cupboard, no debit at all. What is this actually? This is kind of a maintaining interdependency, okay? And it is everywhere. If you like to vote, some people are giving some money. You know that the elections time, we know that some people are giving things to get the votes. And they want to keep us their own pocket. And these days we are talking about the COVID, and the TV news is always saying that the government, the ministers and prime ministers, and all these politicians are saying that it is like their role, okay? And they are not giving a freedom for us to decide. The community has a role, you know, that they don't want to be interdependent on the politician for everything. And our reservoirs are getting sedimentation, and people are complaining the government should clear that, but who is benefiting reservoirs? That is farmers again. When you are living in your village or a city or wherever, in front of the road, sometimes people could clean it. But still we are complaining to the urban council because they are not doing that, because we are dependent on them. And there are plenty of examples to explain what is interdependency is. Likewise, the countries are interdependent on the other countries. And this is motivated, this is encouraged by the globalization. And let's see how it is going on. Now, I have several observations in Asian communities based on those two critical questions. Some observation on Asia Asian economics are like? There are many actually, depending on the time. I selected few. And number one is maintaining global interdependency, making local disparity. That is very common in everywhere. And Asia and many developing countries or less developed nations, they are maintaining global interdependency. Okay. You know that very recently we got the Secretary of US, Pompeo. He came to India, Sri Lanka, and Malaysia, or somewhere else. And why he's coming here? What are the reason for that? And maybe the people are saying, in Sri Lankan context, we are saying that, okay, they come to sign the MCA agreement. And some people said, no, it is not supposed to. Why they are doing so? Have you heard about this compassion of economic hitman? There is a book in Sinhala translation, Arthika Ghatake Kuge Papacharane. And who is hitman? Hitman is the person who supporting to get foreign loans from either IMF and the World Bank. And some people are blaming that. Some people are blaming that we are on a hand in USA or we are on a hand in China. But if you clearly observe, if anyone is from somewhere in Hambantota, you know that the Gambarea is a person who is take caring whole village. He also kind of a hitman. Sometimes you are acting as a hitman. We all like to keep someone else under our control. And therefore, then we are maintaining interdependency individually or the family-wise, or maybe regionally or country-wise and globally. Okay. But what is happening in the disparity? I will explain this point again. So I will move into the next, and the malfunction in democracy, market, and the civil society. In many parts of the Asia, we are democratic people, and we are working under market economy. In Sri Lanka, is starting a speed up to be in market in 1977. And we all belongs to civil society. So are we functioning well? And why it is not? Is it has any influence of globalization then? And that is what we have to discuss. And the third point is development policy. Based on the foreign investment, it's not based on evidence-based research in a local, okay? It's not based on their own country. We produce, we make not what we want, and we produce what decided by the foreign investment. Why we are saying that we don't have enough money, then we have to get some money from there. And there is a very huge theory that's we are calling two-gap theory, but I'm not going to explain. What it is basically saying that our savings is not enough for investment, and then somebody have to big push us for us, that is IMF and World Bank, okay? And we have to get money from these people, and then we have to invest. So what is happening? Investment is again of them, and then we have to repay, we produce, our surplus is less and their surplus is high, and we are still in poor while they are getting rich. This here has to discuss again one by one. And the next one is cost of human capital and culture, because very much I'm talking about education and health. And in Sri Lanka, we have free education and free health. And now we are getting tired having free things. That is why then the state universities, the students are not attending class sometimes. And you know that the advanced level classes in the schools in Sri Lanka, how many people are, how many students are attending to the classes? No, there are many. There are very few. Many of them are in the tuition classes. Why they are happy to pay rather than having things free of charge. We'll discuss that one again. And again, encourage productive forces while disappearing social relations. Okay, and the globalization is promoting capital labor and goods, producing goods and services. That is kind of productive forces. That is factors of production. Well, we are promoting those things, but still our social relations are disappearing. That's what we are talking under cultural values and etc. We are taking those each and every points again. We are talking a little bit more. Okay, the number 7 is resource imperative. What is that one is they are who is they. The globalization is motivating to get our natural resources and they are providing goods and services. We provide labor and services, they provide capital and goods for us. Okay. And the final point is number 8. There are many, but I got only 8 for today's discussion because it won't keep the time. And this is globalization. It's a new kind of a word I use because now we are in the globalized disease. Is it as a part of the globalization or not? I don't know because we are integrated. We are happy to integrate it under globalization. Integration seems very good thing under globalization because assuming that we are getting good result. Okay. Now I like to moving one by one. Don't worry about the data in the table because I downloaded from the kind of sources. So some of them are missed and some of them are correct maybe, but I wanted to get the point. And the global interdependency is not the only matter of the debt or total reserve of each country. And there are some other interdependency, economical interdependency, political, legal, institutional, because still you know that our constitutions, who made it? In the Sri Lankans or someone, because still we are trying our best to make new constitution, but it's given by British, okay? And the social and cultural, biological, chemical, because we are waiting for some vaccination from somewhere else. And we're also waiting for chemical fertilizer, pesticides and everything from the other country, and the technical support, etc., etc. There are many ways of interdependence, maintaining interdependence, right? But I got only one example. See that the Asian countries in Sri Lanka is 2020 seems like 92% of GDP according to this data, but I normally know that it's like 85 to 89. It was like because we are spending to repay our total reserve, the external debt. Can you imagine how country is running with like less than 15, 20% of GDP? So this is the story of the many countries. I'm not sure with the Japan and Bhutan data, but again, get the idea because we are very much depend on external reserve, that is loans given by ADB, maybe IMF, or maybe World Bank, or maybe some other countries. And we are producing for them. That is one economic, what is huge economic interdependency. Then they are handling our economics. Now we have no way to escape. That is what Chinese president said, that the global economy is integrated. It's a big ocean, okay? And we can't escape. Now we have to get loans again and again, or otherwise we have to get out of the trap. So how we are going to do it? Whether we can do it? Yes, it's some countries already explained. Show us that they can. That is what the Mahathir Mohamad done in Malaysia. Okay, and there are plenty of discussion. But basically, what I wanted to tell you that the economic interdependence is making a huge debt to the external world. And they're happy to give us some and more because they want to maintain this global interdependence. That is how global economic model is working under the globalization. Okay. And the next example is look at this, the same data, right? Don't worry about this is graphs, and some of the graphs are very clear and some of them are not clear. And if this data is showing more than 75% or 70%, we are debt, we are getting money from the external world. But again, what is income inequality, the local income disparity? You know that we know that per capita GDP in each country might say that we are above $4,000 per year or whatever. But once you get the national figure, then when you go back to the provincial level, GN level, as a person in a village, is that true that everybody is getting 400 US dollars per year. No. Okay. And the vertically, there's a huge disparity of the situation. I can't say it is only economy, but there are many things. And the infrastructure, the facilities, health, education, okay, culture, and so many things are unequal. It's not equal. It's very much similar for whole nations in Asia and more less developed countries. And this picture is giving us growth of billionaires in South Asia. It's increasing more and more. That means there are some poor people are increasing in the other hand. And this is because of thanks to the globalization one hand, and another thing is income disparity is naturally make through ongoing economic process in the world. Okay. And what are the sort of other inequalities we have? As I said, that inequality of opportunities. Some people might say that that is, these words are coming through this kind of inequality situation of a country. Okay. Now think about, we were talking about globalization in 1960s and as an economics, and after independence, we spent a lot of money, we got loans and everything, but still you can see the TV and how many people are waiting for the parcel of whatever the things are given by Manusatherana or government due to the COVID, because people can't survive if they don't have a single day jobs. So what is happening is that you are saying that the globalization is giving a positive trend of economic development. Is it supporting us to eradicate poverty? Not sure. So the price on inequality, that our prices are always vary very much. And the technology employment inequality, it is there, and etc. See South Asia Inequality Report 2019, then you can get a brilliant idea what I'm talking about. Okay, that is another good example. Now look at the changes of economic structure. I'm not sure whether this table is still clear, but it's still, and because this one I copied from this World Social Report 2020, and it what basically saying is rich countries becoming industrial countries, while poor countries become agriculture and service-oriented country. And these bars are looking at showing our world situation. You know that this 1991 to 2018, and this side is agriculture, industry, and services in the world situation. Now, what is happening in the services and agriculture is, you know, where it is. In 1991, it was there agriculture, now it is 2.8. And here industries is slightly increasing, and the service is like here, now it was there, and it was here, now it is there. But take South Asia, what is happening is now, where was it is? South and Eastern Asia, what is happening? They are getting more service oriented than the industrial oriented. Okay, we are slightly developing our industries. If globalization is work very well, then we have to have a fast industrialized countries, but we are very fast in service oriented. Now Sri Lanka, you know what is our major source of income is providing services, right? Providing services is a major thing. And getting income from expatriate or otherwise people who are working in Middle East. And what is next one is the tea states, you know, then we living with women in this country. So anyhow, the changes of economic structure is dramatically changing in Asian countries, very much looking towards service and agriculture. And the world, the other side, they are reducing agriculture and produce more industrial good for us. Okay, because many of us are working there. And some countries, there are kind of the group of people who graduated from Sri Lanka. I know that in Australia, there are a group of people called Agricola. Who are they? The agricola is those who are graduated from agricultural faculty in University of Peradeniya, and they are living there as a group of people. You know, how many people are there? We will take that point again to discuss of cost of education and health later on. And then this is again very good point under the globalization. You know that the competition is one thing in globalization. If you look at in Sri Lankan context and many Asian countries, our malfunction in democracy, market, and civil society in the development process. What is democracy? Is power to the people. Now we are asking a question whether we have enough power to select the correct person to the parliament. Sometimes it is not, because there are some people who are coming to the list. And there are some people come to the bribes, you know, that the Indian politics and Pakistanis and in other countries, I mean, they are a kind of a thing. Okay. And anyhow, the model is that democracy is the place in the parliament, is the place where policy making. And whatever the policies are happening, they are implemented in the market economy. And that is how we are moving to development discourse. Okay. And in my view, the powerless in democracy, biased with politics and status, NGOs, unions, even the student council, and very much a disorganized consumers. Okay. And our civil society is disorganized. You can see that very well during the COVID period, how much we want to explain them how this COVID issue is. Okay. And the civil society has no power to decide what must be the democracy, what we want in this country. And we can't select. We are not organized. We can't go against it. You know that the drug issue in the country is completely whole responsibility of the government. What the civil society can do, okay? And this is why we don't do it, because it doesn't matter whatever the things can be free trade, no worries, okay? And the next one is that the concept of welfare state in our countries, in Asia, very much, we always thinking of welfare state ideology should be the part of the democracy. Even though we have a market system to achieve development, and the parliament does not represent interests of civil society sometimes, because they can't take their own decision, because they are very much interdependent on the foreign countries' investment for the financial assistance. So therefore, development policy based on the foreign capital, not in the perspective of the people. Remember, in the beginning, I told you that in history, the countries decide what they want depending on the people perspectives. But now it is not happening. And this can be the part of a globalization impact to our society we have. And then again, market, the way we use it and are supposed to use it. And most countries are converting to market forces. Sometimes we accepted, or else supposed to accept it in 1977. As I remember, nobody asked to get the free market system to the country in that time in the political agenda, but someone has explained, established, introduced a market for us. Then the government intervened in the market again, even though there's a market economy under globalization to be function, then the government is invented in the market very much. So therefore the market cannot coordinate economic activities efficiently. There is the distortion of the market because government is intervened time to time. In that time, the globalization is not working properly. This is true with the market system in Sri Lanka, which is malfunctioning. Because I have enough example, but I have to restrict myself to maintain the time anyhow. So anyway, the market doesn't work because the price of petrol, even in Jaffna, even in Colombo, is the same. But it is not happening in where market is functioning well. And if you are going to get I can remember then I went to Ambevela farm, and the cup of yogurt price of the cup of yogurt is still the same in Ambevela farm gate price and the Colombo. So where is the market is working in? In practice, both market and democracy have competition after 1977 in Sri Lanka, because you know that the competition is, we can face to competition in both ways. One is maximizing social welfare, and another one is at the thugs or the robbery. And that's what has happened in the country sometime. Now, look at the example. Now, the private bus companies, bus industry, we are calling it a bus industry. By words, is saying that is like to maximize their properties, so the profit, not the service. So if we are introduce new CTB bus into a route, what will happen in the next day? All the private buses are stopped. So where is the social welfare is coming with? So who is giving this pre-accessibility to the market? And that's the part of the globalization, you know, that is the market system. And the control under the government is sometimes it's very minimal, which is losing a social welfare very much. Okay, and don't think that in my lecture I'm not going to discuss these are the good points and these are the good bad point of globalization. What I'm explaining in the driving forces of globalization in Asia or developing countries. Okay, they are the kind of hidden facts, because we can't see the flowers, we can't see the roots. But I'm trying my best to explain these are the kind of roots, inherent characteristic of globalization in our countries. Okay, now the third point is a development policy based on the foreign investment was evidence-based research. The combination of forces and relations means the way people relate to the physical world and the way people relate to each other. I know that this is exactly, you didn't understand what I was saying. And the combination of forces mean factors of production. And the relation is human relations, okay? And the production and relations are linked people with the world. Now you know that our investment and manufacturing service oriented. We are using very much our investment to manufacturing industries and service oriented sector. What will happen? The current development concepts based on the Eurocentric models. And our garment factories are producing things to not to wear for us, but wear for some other countries. But we are getting money. And very much they are service oriented. We are providing only labor. We are not providing any raw material. We don't produce any clothes for the manufacturing sector. We are importing them from somewhere else. And also civil wars and expatriates. Civil war, they produce, we used. Okay, are we producing weapons in this country? No, we don't. And some rich countries are produce weapons, and through the free trade, we can import them and we can use. Okay, that is what has happening in many parts of the world, the other part of the world. And the expatriates and the many women after 1977, not in 1977 in other countries, but many countries, you can see that women are employed in foreign countries. And can you imagine what sort of relations they have? We are providing them as a raw material, that is labor. But what is happening? Because of the civil wars and because of the women working in other countries, how their social relations are. Those who are working in manufacturing sector, how their social relations are. That is what they ask in Sunil Leather. There is a very nice song that asking that what is you are showing? Is this your life or is this your clothes? And this is what one point is given by Karl Marx, that you know, driving the production process, how to develop with the maintaining social relations. So otherwise there is no satisfaction, welfare life. But anyhow, the globalization is motivating us to do those things. And therefore, they ignored the social relations and strengthened the technical relation of the production under globalization. But are we still happy? Yes, we are still happy because it is contributing a big part to our GDP. But individual level, in the society level, we are not happy sometimes. Okay? And this is another part of the globalization for our countries. And the next one is cost of human capital and culture. The, you know that we spending a lot of money for health and education. If you want to go somewhere else, some other countries, what they are asking you to do, you have to get past IELTS examination. That means you have to be good in English, you have to have a degree, and you have to have a very good health certificate and with their health insurance. Who is spent for to achieve this good qualification of those things? And the taxpayers in this country. And we are the people spending fixed costs for maintaining such human capital in this country. Now they are getting those labor and they are spending only variable because they are paying salary and they are making good profit while we are losing our cost. How many people are sending money back to Sri Lanka? If you investigate this point, you can see that those who are getting low education from the Middle East, they are giving more money for us. But those who are getting high degrees, they are living in European countries or Australia or New Zealand, and they don't save any money of our country. It's very little. And what is that human capital? But it's still we are asking 6% of GDP for the education. So what is the point? What's the point unless we are absorbing these people into the development process in the country? And it seems that English and computer skills is prioritized, and each and every mother in this country is promoting their child to learn English. They are sending international schools and or else tuition classes. The private tuition are promoted very much while advanced level classes students are stopping their going to school because it is free and they are getting financial supported studies in the tuition classes, and parents has to pay both. And again, spend more and more for education and high fixed costs for education and health in less developed countries, while only variable costs occurred for rich countries, as I explained. Then again, the high profit margin for rich countries and high cost margin for poor countries. So we are saying that the globalization is giving free movement of labor to any country. Okay, yeah, that is good idea, but who is paid for them? We are planting, they are harvesting. So is that the result of globalization? Is it good and bad? Then you can decide yourself. And the next one is upload versus download education system, and hence the threat of disappearing local knowledge-based development strategy. And I said that English is becoming an international language because we want to get the knowledge, then you should know English very well. Otherwise, you can't download the document. How many people upload up to now, and how many people download the documents from the computers? Which knowledge you are downloaded and which knowledge you should upload it. And our education system is a good thing or bad thing for the improvement of globalization, because we have to download to improve the globalization in the world. Otherwise, it is not easy. So international schools and universities in private sector and the transfer knowledge through global communication, all these things are part of the globalization. And it can be benefited one way or another. However, what will happen, local knowledge-based development strategy in a particular country, whether they can get rid over the problem of their countries. And this is one example given by China author, and ongoing globalization is a paradigm shift to teaching EIL in Chinese context. They are happy with that. Is what I'm saying, that no one can say this good and bad. It's depending on the context. And Chinese schools are happy having a English text in their textbook. Okay. Now the next one is encourage productive process while disappearing social relation from cooperation to competition. And if you look at these societies up to now, in the very recent, over the last 10, 20 years, as I remember, we are now more individualistic than ever. Then there are two elements of mode of production, because I was discussed this one again and again. Productive process is always materials, and social relations are relationship between people and their work and social classes. But with the competition, people are losing their social relation. In historical view of Sri Lanka, the pre-independence, we were cooperation. labor was labor was commercial labor, but later on, after independence and pre-independence period, we got Indian labor. Then there was commercial labor was corporation labor. But you know that the Russell, in the beginning, when he's saying that globalization, he's saying that it's a corporate giant. Globalization is a corporate giant. In pre-independence era, in the countries like Asia, we had a corporation. But it was not giant corporation. But anyway, the corporate giants is globalization, as Russell defined in 1930s. But again, what has happened in the second stage of post-independence, 1948 to 1977, and that the corporation and state dependency was prominent in Sri Lanka. And the third point is post-independence, 1972 to date, the cooperation was competition. Okay. In the competition, overall socioeconomic transition in the countries like Asia is very much individualism through competition. Now we are in the competitive market, competitive democratic system. Okay. Now, do you think that this cooperation to competition journey, how it comes? It comes through the capitalism and globalization. That is why I'm saying the capitalism, the globalization is continuing the capitalism. Okay, so that is what I wanted to prove that with this historical evidence. Number 7, one is labor substitution. Now, labor and technology is very important point in the globalization era. Why? The production function, what we can substitute labor intensive to do capital intensive. Capital intensive is always requiring less labor than technology. But what will happen our social cultural system in many Asian countries, this is very common. As a result of such transformation, structure and responsibilities of the family has dramatically changed. Family labor was depend on the agriculture in earlier in Sri Lanka. Then I show in this in table 2 here, family members assuming 6 to 4 in the family and the role of the family members before 1977 and after 1977, because that is the cross-cutting points in Sri Lankan market economy. What is happening? Mother, father, elder son or daughter, younger son, daughter, younger son, daughter, younger son, daughter. So that is the number of people in the family. Before 1977, then the mother was a manager. He is the one who is getting money from the father, and mother is allocating for various purposes. But still, this might happen. If you want some money, you ask him from your mother first, then your father sometime. Why? He is the manager of the family. Because you know that the economic courses started this household economy, how to manage family, and then only it goes to a macro level thing. And the father is the one who is a decision maker, because decision maker is deciding what should do for his future, whether he's going to build a house, whether he's going to cultivate paddy and which paddy is going to cultivate, etc., etc. Normally, elder daughter or a son, he was a helper to father or a mother. And youngest normally, in that before 1977, they were the people who were schooling, and they are the people who were educated. But after the 1977, with this globalization situation, or the aggregate results of the globalization, And the mother or a woman went to the abroad, and some people went to the garment factories, and some sons went to the armed forces and all these things. And the mother was a decision maker because he is a foreign labor, and she is earning money. Then the father become a manager, right? Now, can you imagine when manager, if there is a company without a manager, what will happen? Then this part is, the rest of the members of the family, they do various things. Okay, some people are employed in garment factories. Some of them are working in the armed forces, and they are earning money. And the structure of the family and the values are completely changing thanks to the market economic system under the globalization, because money comes to first, and the values and social culture goes to next. Huh? Therefore, this is one of the biggest irreversible challenge with respect to globalization in Asia. That is what has happened. And the second, the resource imperative. And this is again, I'm going back to the Planck ideology. Resource imperative is a global transaction from peripheral to core. And the core countries must be US, UK, or Australia, or France, etc., etc. Peripheral nations are we who are living in equator very much. And we can call them as a middle income country, or lower income country, or middle lower income countries. What is happening? Industrial goods we are receiving, and we are providing food and raw materials, labor, and what else? Agriculture products. So developed countries need natural and human resources of the developing countries. They need those. And developing country needs capital, technology, and brain power of the wealthier country. That is what we are downloading the knowledge. We are getting brain power from them. Okay. Who is repaired the PCR machine in the hospital was damaged last week? The Chinese people. Yeah, we don't have such a capable person in this country. And the developed countries' economics increasingly depend on the natural and human resources of the developing nations. That's true. And again, growing interdependence of nations and their activities on the another, fostered by the depletion of natural resources as well as overpopulation. These are the facts of resource imperative. They want to maintain this model, and that is what role of the globalization again. Now you can imagine, now you can think where we are we working towards to enrich the globalization, or are we working towards our own ideology? Is it a problem, or is it okay to go? Okay, but this is what exactly happening under globalization. And number 8 is this is a globalization. This is the last part of my presentation. Actually now 1 and 15 minutes, 1 hours and 15 minutes is over. Now I'm not going to discuss this point because this is a globalization. Is it a result of globalization or not? With my explanation in the beginning, you can decide what this is for. Okay, and this I'm not going to give any evidence because this is ongoing discourse of COVID-19 in globally. And you can think about how it contribute through globalization. And but again, I think I like if you are getting ready to think in a new way of looking at the contemporary issues of globalization. And I got several 3 categories. Okay, one is democracy related issues. I'm asking from them whether these are linked with the globalization or not. Now, countries has a big issue of aging. Now, Sri Lanka is one of them. The old people are more than young people, including me, right? And then again, youth uprising is several times in Sri Lanka, especially, not even Sri Lanka. You can see that Pakistan and Kashmir in India, and many parts, the Philippines and Nepal. Okay, there are youth uprising. Almost all these things are related with the democratic. And the public tension and party politics is very much practical in Sri Lanka. And the large public sector with high inefficiency. Now that is one role of the current government to increase the efficiency of public sector. Why public sector is inefficient? Because they are not industrial. They are providing services. If you are provide industrial services, then you might work towards making profit. The profit is kind of a motivative factor in globalization. Number 5, freedom for information but high transaction cost, right? Now you can see that there is freedom to getting information, but the cost of transaction is very high. That is searching, collecting information. That is what we are calling transaction cost. There are many, but I only highlighted only 5 democratic or democracy related issues. Now I'm asking you whether they are one way or another linked with the globalization. Then the second is development related issue. Now you can see more foreign earnings from Middle East, less from Europe. That is what I said, that our capital, social capital or the human capital, we spending a lot, but we are getting less. And more for education, but more brain drain. We are spending more money, but many people left their countries. And the third, more for child, but more for drugs. We are saying that everything for a child, but still we are getting more drugs. From where and who are the ground force? Number 4, more women employed, less family satisfaction. Now, earlier system was that women didn't get more employment opportunities. Now they have enough, but family satisfaction, because many women are not in our countries, they are in somewhere else working, getting money, but they are not happy. So that is what we are talking about, social relations, but still we are providing raw materials, that is our labor. Number 5, more tech tabs, but less creative people. We have more mobile phone, we have more technological instruments, but very less creative people are generating through that knowledge. Is it because of globalization or other thing else? Number 6, more mobile phone, less communication. Okay, we have enough mobile phone, but are you sure that you are knowing communication? No people use where it is essential necessities, their mobile phone, they use for unnecessary thing. More and less, and again more and more. And the final column is saying that the market related. Now we are getting loans and we are cultivating, we are producing, we produce goods and services, maybe goods for the other countries, and we are forget about wildlife. Then therefore elephants eat our soul. Now how many people died in this country because of elephants hit? And the next one is more vehicle and late arrival at home. We are free to get any, we are free to import, we can get whatever the vehicle you want, but the road traffic is there. So therefore we are our arrival is always very late your home. And more hours, less price. You know that in these days, and even the very normal issue is that the productivity increase because we got many facilities, technology. Okay, we are producing more, but the price is less. And the prostitution, begging, drug selling are rather profitable. Under this situation, all these jobs are more profitable because fixed costs are less, and only the variable cost. Those who are begging in the buses, even they don't get the bus ticket, right? It's very profitable. Number 5, free books and clothes, but no children into schools. We are providing free book and clothes. Why? We want to motivate education. We want to get a huge human capital to send people for free labor movement, but no children at the schools. And more education facilities in state school and more tuition classes, private education or under education and under privatization. So there are so many things. We are spending a lot of money, more facility in state school, but children are in the tuition classes. And what is these facts? Can you see any link with the globalization of these related issues? Okay. So now I'm happy to come to my conclusion. I'm not going to conclude all the facts I explained, but I like to give you a different kind of a conclusion, taking from the speech of the Global and Asia Economic Outlook, that is the chief economist, deputy managing director in IMF. What is he saying? In short, we are facing a complex situation with major tasks and serious challenges ahead. Now, over the last 50 years, like from 60 to almost 60, 50 years, we come up with globalization process, but still we are saying, in short, we are facing a complex situation. Why? Globalization is not the answer for get rid over these issues. No, we never know. With major tasks and serious challenges ahead, still we have things to do. Only by working together can we ensure that the global economy continues to move towards a greener, smarter, and fair path to recovery. Now, still we should promote integration. That is why we have to work together. For that, the IMF stands ready to provide all possible assistance to its membership. Now, we have hopes to get more and more from IMF to maintain in global interdependency, to promote capitalism and help into continuation of the globalization. And this is end by asking future directions. If you look at the data very carefully, some countries are beneficial for globalization, but some countries are getting losses. Why is this? And this question I keep you to think more and more. And this is the end of my lecture. And thank you very much for listening. Now it's time to discussion or questions. And if you have anything, then we can discuss. And thank you very much for silence listening and without disturbing to me. I'm sure that you come across some ideas with what I was trying my best to explain. And if you have any clarification and questions, now is the time to do. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, sir.
Now I can hear you. Just ask.
Sir, what do you think will be the future of globalization?
That is the final conclusion. It is moving ahead. That is why IMF deputy director is saying globalization is going ahead. That is free movement. You know that maybe you asked that question because of COVID, okay? And you know that this is not the everlast issues because we had enough such problems in the world time to time, and it might find some solution, some sort of short period of time. It might take 1 or 2 years, but still it is going on. You know that this is what it is, irreversible changes in the economics in the world. Globalization is going ahead, but still there is a way to escape in it if we can try our best to manage. But it's not the point to say that we have to develop the local economy. In my idea is the globalization is going ahead, but some capable countries might managing it because we have to manage whatever. And maybe the question you ask, because the COVID-19 is hitting all over the world, therefore free movements of these things are not easy. Yeah, that can be happen. You know that the time to time, it's short time, this type of things can happen, but still now the world is well organized with the globalized model. And only point is that when China and Japan and some other countries are benefiting with globalization, I don't say it is 100%, but it's still. But this has to be carefully managed. But only thing is the trap of globalization is a huge and very dangerous. We have to well understanding, then we can manage it. Not sure whether I answer your question, or if you have any further clarification, you can ask, please.
Students, if you have more questions, you can email us, right? You know our email address, eurekdu at uh, at gmail.com. So if you have any further questions, you can send us. Then I can forward your questions to Professor Kularathne, and we can get back to you. Or otherwise, if you have questions at the moment, please raise it.
Dr. Hemanta, there is one
Yeah.
question in the
Okay.
chat message.
Right.
Now, the question is asking, sir, regarding the core and peripheral issue, does Sri Lanka recognize this is a problem, and what in Sri Lanka doing to avoid this problem? And the question is regarding the core and peripheral issue. Does Sri Lanka recognize this as a problem? You know, that is not in Sri Lanka, but in all over the world. And this well understood. We know that. We know very well. And you know that is why, do you see that any government in the current government and the previous government, we are trying our best to promoting people to send some other countries, and we are going to IMF and getting money, and we are asking some the financial assistance from them. We are asking some technical support, because this is the whole thing. That is why I said that the democracy is failed. That is, parliament, the policy making in the parliament failed because they are in this core and peripheral link. They are what they are doing actually. They are getting power, and later on they are going to USA or IMF and World Bank, and they are getting money. They are managing the loans. That is what they rule in the country. Instead of looking at some area, the methodology to escape it. But what has Dr. Mahathir Mohamad done? He initially said to the people, now next 3 years, we are not going to get any loans from any financial institution, global level, and we have to produce ourselves. Okay. And what is Thailand has happened in 1960s, King Ahudullah was the person who introduced this Divinaguma concept, even though we got it later on. And they said that, no, we have to produce, we have to be with efficiency economy, not the self-efficiency. Now we are going with self-efficient, because self-efficiency is another concept. We are getting the things from the other countries and keep them in the market. And the sufficiency is availability in the market, not produce ourselves. Okay, and we are in the trap of globalization, or the core and peripheral issue. We know that because this Andrew Frank was explaining this in 1966, studying in Brazilian economy, and he said that this is what exactly happening in all developing nations, because we are looking at that direction all the time. Now, that is what, now it is mixed with the culture. That is what I am asking, how many people wants to do your jobs in the future destination in any other country other than Sri Lanka? If you can ask your own, if you answer your own, then think yourself, are you getting ready to work to this country, or you want to go somewhere else to get the better off or better facilities than Sri Lanka? If your answer is yes, and that we are ideologically in the trap, don't think that the government can escape, because they are in the trap. They are there. So therefore, we are understanding very well. We are in core and peripheral issue, but we don't take any steps to get rid of the issue. I can give one example, because you know that one of the brilliant academics and the politicians who was our former financial minister who killed by terrorist. I can't remember his name. He's a Tamil gentleman, but I might get his name a little later. But he killed by the Dr. Hemanta. Do you remember who is that Ministry of Finance in earlier? Is one of the professor, one is the very popular politician later on. He killed by the LTT. But anyway, he was one of the Oxford graduate, and he done his law in Sri Lanka, and he went to Oxford for getting PhD.
Lakshma Kadiragama.
Yeah, Lakshman Kadiragama. He's the last Mr. Lakshman Kadiragama. He went to Oxford to get their law degree and everything. Finally, he's the only member who got the presidentship in Oxford University. And finally, they asked him to stay in that country. What his answer was, no, I came to icing my cake, but the cake was baked in Sri Lanka. And that statement is giving how we are going to escape from the core and peripheral issue. But if you look at that now, I went to Australia to do my PhD with other four people, and three of them I stay in that country, and I'm the only person who came back to Sri Lanka. And that is one example. So that is core and peripheral issue. Okay. Any other question, please? So otherwise you can text me. So very good question. You know that this is the way how we have to get the family with the lecture. You have to ask, you have to discuss. It doesn't matter whatever the question is, because that's the part of the knowledge acquiring. We are encouraging you to ask any clarification. It doesn't matter. So, or else you can comment. Or you can comment on my explanation at least. If you understood or not, I don't know whether it was clear or not. Okay, Dr. Hemanta, you can handle it.
Yes. Don't you have questions, students? Please feel free to ask the questions. Any question, or as Professor said, any comments? No? Okay, then later on, as I asked you earlier as well, you can write, you can send your comments or your questions to our common email. Then I can forward it to Professor Kularathne and get back to you. Shirani, shall we wind up the session, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Cadet Maya Singh will give the vote of thanks.
Yeah, please.
Dear Sir, on behalf of the staff and students of General Sir John Kotlawal Defence University and the Eurasia Foundation, I wish to express our gratitude to you for being here with us and sharing your valuable knowledge amidst your very busy schedule. We are truly honored and humbled. We are all inspired by your thought-provoking words of knowledge. Thank you, sir. We would also like to thank all of you who joined with us today through the virtual platform, and we believe it was a truly great opportunity. Thank you all and have a pleasant day.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Professor. This is the